What's going on, everyone? On today's episode, we have the last of our NFL offseason series. We are looking at the teams that were just shy of making it to the Super Bowl, going from the divisional round all the way through the Super Bowl teams. So, if these teams are of interest to you, stay tuned because we're going to break it down. Here we go.
Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. That is Chris Felice. I am Matt High, your host. We're going to break down even more teams today. The offseason is in full swing. There are a lot of good teams that we're going to talk about today, and some that are changing. There's been a lot of changes even so far. So we're going to be talking about the Houston Texans, the Rams, Ravens, Lions, Commanders, Bills, and your Super Bowl matchup of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to break down what we think each team should be doing this offseason and why. So, Chris, let's get right to it. Houston Texans. For me, wide receiver is the main thing they got to figure out because Nico Collins is awesome. And if any of you have been with the show for a period of time, you know that Nico Collins has been my dude. And it was great to see him really step up. He was the number one wide receiver in fantasy football for the first couple weeks. And for a period after him being even injured, he was still a top 12 wide receiver. Sorry. So he's just that good. Him and CJ Stroud have this connection, and it's special. Tank Dell, injured. He's not going to play this year. I don't see that happening. Stephon Diggs, he also got injured. I think he's done. So this team needs a wide receiver. Is that your main concern for the Texans to move forward?
Yeah, no, definitely wide receiver. Needs someone to pair with Nico Collins. Doesn't get much simpler than that.
Yeah, I don't know who that's going to be. I feel like they're going to look heavily in the draft. Egbuka could be one of these guys. I know he played with CJ Stroud, so I think that would be, if Stroud had a say, he'd say, hey, get me the guy I played with in college. So that could be a landing spot for this guy, but we will have to wait and see. The running back, I got in the last episode, I wore a clown mask, or I said I wore a clown mask. I kind of got to do the same thing here because I did not see Joe Mixon doing quite what he did this year.
You didn't.
And this team went through it. I mean, if you look at CJ Stroud, I know he was a really big bust in fantasy football for where you drafted him. But if you look at the surrounding situation, it wasn't his fault. I'm kind of writing this past year off on him because looking at what he was able to do, he was still pretty good. I don't think anything really took a step back for him, slightly, but it's kind of hard when you have like third and fourth string players that are now your starter because all the other guys ahead of them are injured. So it's kind of hard to succeed when you don't have the players on the field healthy to succeed. So are you writing it off this year, or are you concerned about CJ Stroud? Because that's the main, I think, concern as far as fantasy football goes on the Texans outside of the wide receivers.
I'm not gonna write it off, but I'm not like concerned that he's in a. I'm like an in between. I'm a little bit of in between. He still has something to prove, but I have confidence that he'll prove it. I don't know if he's gonna be like that first season kind of set him up on this little pedestal of expectations that he's like, top 3 or something. That's where like he'll probably end up being. Might be a bit of an overestimation. So if he ends up somewhere in the top 10, I think I'm satisfied with the performance on CJ Stroud, which I think he'll do. So like, I'm definitely keeping an eye on it, but I'm also not worried too much.
Yeah, for me, CJ Stroud right now might be my leading player for bounce back potential. He's like my favorite candidate for that award because look at what he had to deal with this past season, and his talent level is great. I mean, he's a really good quarterback. knows the game. I like his vision. That's one of the things that that drew me to him over Bryce Young in the same draft. Was I liked the way he managed the middle of the field a lot better, and we've seen that in his rookie career. So through 2 seasons, Stroud has been a dominant passer in that area of the field. He just needs the personnel, and I think this team is going to go out heavy in free agency and the draft to get him another guy because unfortunately Tank Dell is not going to be there on the team this year. Getting injured that bad that late, like it sucks, but he's kind of done. So it's not the end of Tank Dell. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying, but for this season, when I'm looking at the 2025 Houston Texans, he's not going to be a part of that equation. So, moving on here to the Los Angeles Rams, we have a couple players that may or may not be on the team. Matthew Stafford is we're debating on if he's going to retire or if they're going to move on from him. And, Cooper Kupp, obviously, we mentioned in the last show, they're looking to move on from him as well. This could be a new Rams offense next year. Now, Puka is your dude. He's your guy.
He is my dude. He is my guy.
Cooper Kupp is not there. What does Puka do?
Well, there needs to be a competent second fiddle to the first string that is Puka Nacua, right? If Puka Nacua does not have that, I mean, Puka Nacua is great and all, right? But he will not be as prolific if there's not another player there, in my personal opinion. As fantastic as Puka is, just having that second wide receiver threat is so invaluable. I would argue almost every single player every wide receiver one in the NFL gets worse if their second fiddle is not like either is not there or just simply gets like a downgrade. They just lose a step. I think there are very few players that could do it. I think the only one that comes to mind right now is Jamar Chase. Only because he has proven that he can do it without T. Higgins because T. Higgins gets injured a lot. So I've seen that happen already. I've already seen that happen.
He is better with T. Higgins on the field. That's one of the statistics that like it kind of proves your point right there. Having a solid, competent wide receiver too on your team,
it's so
does
nice.
wonders.
So yeah, I think Puka will be fine if it's just him, but I think he'll be even better if they get another person to go along with him.
So Cooper Kupp gone. They don't have a great number 2 option. Puka's floor would be what? What do you think? Wide receiver 15, top 12, top 24?
I'd go the floor, the absolute floor, like something horrific happens and whatever. Top 15 is probably fine, but like I would be more realistic and go top 12. I think a like oh no meter at like 10 is 15 on the floor, but I think the regular like okay, things are just whatever, the floor is 12.
Gotcha. All right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Kyren Williams is still going to be I think the dude. Williams. I don't care about Blake Corum, and I was adamant, and y'all called me crazy. Y'all called me crazy, and I said he ain't gonna do nothing. I don't care that Kyren Williams was listed as returning punts. It didn't matter at all until the end of the season, when they were just like, all right, we should probably rest this dude a little bit heading into the playoffs, and they gave Blake Corum a couple things. I don't think Blake Corum didn't score a touchdown this year, right? I think they were trying to get him a touchdown.
I am not sure about that.
I'm pretty sure it was they tried a couple times and he got to like the 1 yard line, had 2 attempts. And they're like, all right, this ain't working. Kyren, get your butt in there. Boom, touchdown next play. So Kyren Williams is that dude for me. He's going to be another polarizing player this offseason because you're going to have to draft him at the end of the first, early second round because of the offense he's in and what he does. I mean, maybe if this offense shifts a little bit, he might get to like mid to late second, just depending on who's there. But Kyron Williams is a workhorse running back in the NFL, and he is on a
Good football. He's good at
he's
football.
on a team that has a coach that's like, yeah, no, I want one dude, and that's you.
So I wanted to talk about that, the coach specifically.
Okay.
If you remember when they had won the last Super Bowl, he said Sean McVay was going to retire when Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford leave the team. Do you think he's done?
I think he's got one more year. I don't think he's going to
Got one more
retire.
year?
I think he's got one
He's
more
young.
year.
He's
Yeah.
he's young. Yeah, like I think
He's
that
got
was
that
maybe, like,
Amazon money coming
I have
to him.
I have a weird feeling that might have been an overreaction to the moment, which is so fair. I mean, I imagine it's just an insanely surreal moment, right? So I'm not gonna hold him to that statement by any means.
He just had a
Because
kid, so I have
yeah,
one on the way. And their kids are expensive. So
that's
for all you
true. They
parents
are
out there, like, yeah, we understand. So he's gonna have to put some extra work in, an extra couple years, just to put him through college and stuff. So
fair enough. Fair enough. But hey, enough about talking about the stats. Let's talk about something else. My fans out there, fans of the LA Rams, you have, we're talking about Cooper Kupp leaving, Matthew Stafford probably leaving, trades galore. You have some guys, Alec Jackson, Joe Noteboom, heading off to free agency. Perhaps you need a little bit of upgrade in your apparel department. I think we have a solution for you. Roll it.
listen, fantasy football is all about making the right picks. It's why you're still rocking that faded jersey from 2012. Your fantasy team might be rebuilding, doesn't mean your game day gear has to be. That's where Fanatics comes in. Fanatics carries all the officially licensed NFL gear you need, including jerseys, hats, hoodies, and much more, to rep your squad like a true champion, even if your fantasy team is looking like it's tanking for next year's draft. No more embarrassing throwback jerseys unless it's on purpose. Head to Fanatics.com to gear up today. Fanatics, because if you're going to draft like a champ, you better dress like one too. All right, thank you, Chris. We're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens next. Now, the Ravens offense were one catch away from potentially being into the conference finals with the Chiefs instead of the Buffalo Bills. But sadly, did not happen. Mark Andrews had a little bit of a drop problem. Let's not take anything away from the Ravens, though, because Lamar easily could have won the MVP for this past season, and a lot of people probably think he should have.
Well, they're wrong. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen both sides. Like, I've seen the argument for both. To give Josh Allen one when just because he doesn't have one and whatnot. Like, I've seen. I get both sides. I kind of don't care either way. Both of these guys were really good, but just speaking of the Ravens, their offense was great. I mean, Rashad Bateman had 9 touchdowns. Rashad Bateman, former first-round pick, left for dead in all the fantasy drafts, and he scored 9 touchdowns. He was just that good. And
He was a guy.
Yeah, he was a guy that just did it. Didn't matter. He's like, yeah, I don't care. No one has any expectations for me, so let me ball out. Zay Flowers was a solid wide receiver this past year. Got a lot of work. Mark Andrews. We had the whole. It started rough, man.
It was pretty rough.
We were telling people like, don't drop him, and if you
tight ends were rough.
Yeah, at that point we were kind of looking like, maybe you should drop him. 2 gooses in a row, and it just didn't work out. And then all of a sudden, started getting back into touchdowns, but the yardage was the main thing with him. He was very low yardage, which is very irregular for Mark Andrews. So if you got a touchdown, he was good. If you didn't, you were like, great, I should have played this other random dude that I can't pronounce his name from this team that I don't want to play. But, Zach Ertz was the right answer over Mark Andrews in most weeks this season. So, yeah. Hindsight's 2020, and that hurt.
Yeah.
But Derrick Henry was typical Derrick Henry. doesn't show any signs of slowing down. You give him the ball and watch good things happen. Is there anything? I don't know if there's really much to add about the Ravens. Like, what do you
No,
think
I
they
think
need
that
this offseason? I think they just run it back, right?
yeah, no, I think they run it back what they need, and I will stand by this. I will die on this hill. They need to not beat themselves because that's what's happening. Okay. Every single time I feel like the Ravens do not do what they should be doing to win football games in the playoffs. Right. I mean, the two years ago, we saw like they made it to the playoffs on the run game and they ran it like 4 or whatever times. Like this past year, nowhere near as bad, right? They actually played. They did what they needed to do. It just happened to fall the way it did, right? My thought process going into uh this next year is I would maybe solidify the defense a little bit more. Besides that, run it back offensively. I mean, I don't see an issue. I mean, I only say solidify the defense more because if you offense obviously wins games, but you know that offense is fantastic. So if you can keep the opponent's offense off the field as much as humanly possible with a fantastic defense, that's way better at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they have a couple guys that are probably going to leave in free agency. You got Nelson Aguilar, uh, Deontay Johnson's technically on the team, but he
Yeah.
ain't going to be there. I mean, this could be the end of Rashad Bateman, depending on what they decide to do with him. So, I guess it kind of depends on. I do think the defense could use a couple pieces. I mean, they're a great defense as is, but having a little bit more depth is never a bad thing, especially in the NFL. So I think that I would agree with trying to get the defense, upgraded slightly would definitely help. So moving on
Sorry,
here.
I love the comment you made. And you're just like nothing wrong with more depth. And of course, the next team we're going to talk about is the very
Yeah,
much
this is the team.
definition.
This is a team that wishes they had even more depth. But even I mean, the Detroit Lions. All right, that's what we're talking about here. They basically had like 30 players on IR over the course of this year, and they still were very close.
They were.
They were. I'm a Giants fan, but watching the Lions play football is just so much fun. Jared Goff is an awesome story. Gets basically booted out of LA, left for dead, and then all of a sudden potential Super Bowl. This team righted the ship, and Dan Campbell, my God, that dude is all. His players would jump in front of a bullet for him, and that is
And
awesome. I
you know the
love
worst part is
watching that.
they would jump in front of the bullet for him, and then Dan Kim was like, no, and like pick them up and take the bullet instead.
Yeah.
No,
He's a
he's
player's
nuts.
coach. Like the epitome. If you look at the dictionary for player coach, it's just a picture of Dan Campbell
It
because
is.
his players adore that man. So let's talk about the rest of the Lions here because they just lost their offensive coordinator. They just lost
Did
their defensive coordinator.
they did.
What do you think this does to this team? Because I mean, this is
So
a close knit group of people. Like they
it
were all
is.
friends.
It
How do you
is.
deal
I
with
mean,
that?
the culture there was very positive, and I don't think that's going to change. I don't know who they're going to get, and who did they replace either of them yet?
They they did, I believe. I'll pull it
Did
up
they
while
just
you.
upgrade? Did they just take from within the organization?
Yes, I believe they did.
That's what I assumed was going to happen. Because that's how good that cold. I imagine, there's that whole debacle debate right now that like because of what happened with the Lions and also with Kellen Moore on this, leaving after the Super Bowl to go to the Saints, right? That team should not be allowed to.
Spoiler.
True. True. Sorry. I have. Yep. Fair enough. But yeah. Anywho. the I know there's a whole debate of like, oh, teams should not be allowed to talk to those guys while they're actively playing. Totally understand that, but Dan Campbell and the rest of management must have known that was happening. They probably had a plan. I'm not too worried about it. I imagine they were going to hire from within, and I think they've done a fantastic job of getting talent anyway. That I feel pretty confident that they will find people that will mesh with whatever they're trying to think up. So I'm not too worried. And I'm not too worried about the Lions at all. In
Yeah.
in all honesty, I think I think Davenport is set to become a free agent. And
I
I
believe
know
so. Yeah. So the
so
offensive
edge rushers.
coordinator is John Morton. He was the Lions senior offensive assistant in 2022, and he was just the Broncos passing game coordinator for the 23 to 24 season. With that, just
I like
had
that.
Bo Nix,
Yeah, I like that a
account for the
lot.
second most
I
passing
like that a
touchdowns.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
that's
like, I'm
pretty
not
good.
I'm not worried. Yeah, a couple edge rushers or
Yeah.
like pass rushing just in general because I know that like guy free agent. I think there's another guy on the team that's getting pretty old. Next season, so like just that. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much to comment on like the
They
actual
need
team.
defense. Defense is what they need.
They need
So,
depth.
yes.
They need depth. Get more.
Yeah. I mean, David Montgomery, I think he's safe. I don't think that role is going to change at all.
Oh.
Jameer Gibbs, obviously, just he's a stud. They're going to get him the ball. Amon-Ra St. Brown, excellent, excellent wide receiver, always open. Jared Goff, very good quarterback. Hendon Hooker kind of looks like a wasted pick at this point. Um,
Nah, we'll be fine.
Sam Laporta
I
for
believe.
me is the question mark because he could be the fourth target on this team. It for me it goes Amon-Ra St. Brown, then probably Jameson Williams number 2, and then you got Jameer Gibbs number 3, and then probably Laporta 4. He had a great rookie year on the back of a lot of touchdowns, not as many yards or receptions. His target share was a little bit lower. Touchdowns aren't a super sticky stat, and they can go away. I mean, this year we saw it. He was good when the Jameson Williams wasn't performing as well, and it just wasn't as good when David Montgomery wasn't
Uh,
on the field. What do you do with Sam Laporta? Is he still a stud tight end for you, or is he in
here,
the group of you're a tight end? If you're not 1, 2, or 3, I don't care about you, and I'll stream.
here, yeah. Here's what I'll say. I think he's fine. Right. I think he's good. I think, unfortunately, I've said this a plethora of times throughout the year. Those players are going to suffer from the fact that that team is just stacked offensively. Your Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably your safest bet, and everything outside of that, like you had just ranked those guys. I actually rank him Amon-Ra St. Brown 1, and then the rest. There is no 2, 3, 4. It's just the rest because that's actually how it was, right?
Yeah,
Jameer Gibbs did not always get all the targets and not always get all the passes. Sometimes he was less effective in that role. Sam Laporta, we just talked about him, didn't always get the passes. Jameson Williams had plenty of games where he was not, the guy that he was more mid to end of season, right? It just how that offense operates, right? It is unfortunately how that works because they are a good football team. Funny
yeah.
enough, and this sucks. Sounds really weird. Being a good football team is sometimes bad for fantasy. That's a weird statement, but it's true.
For certain
It's
players,
true.
yeah. Like if
Yes,
you
for
had
certain
Amon-Ra
players.
St. Brown, if you had Jameer Gibbs, if you had David Montgomery, which I did, he was one of my favorite picks in the draft after this year, as it was just every week. Okay, all right, I got a touchdown plus, 50, 60, 70 yards. Okay, he didn't win me the week a lot, but he sure as heck helped me. So I think it's gonna be more of the same. I'm not worried about Gibbs. I don't care that Ben Johnson is gone, as OC. I think this team is going to go back into the identity of this team, which is running the ball, and everything else will work itself out. Like I'm not nervous. I feel like a lot of people might be panicking slightly on, oh well, Ben Johnson's not there. I think it'll figure itself out. It might take a little bit, it might not be as good in the beginning of the season, but I think as the season goes on, these guys, get a little bit more acclimated to their new roles as OC and DC. I think it'll be perfectly fine. So don't panic. If you could buy any of these guys low, I think now's the time to do so. But I don't see anyone being able to, because if I have Jahmyr Gibbs, sorry, you ain't touching him. You ain't getting him. You have to pry him out of my cold dead fingers because he's mine. But moving on to the next team here, we got the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, man. Jaden Daniels. I don't know what else there was to say. Just
that's it. Daniels honestly, is move really on. Jaden Daniels. Yeah, that's it.
He looked amazing. He looked better than I think any of us expected. We saw the rushing capability. That was one of his big things for fantasy. We were really looking at that and honing in on it, but we saw the negatives of him just basically getting bulldozed in the middle of the field because he couldn't see the players. He was taking unnecessary hits. He didn't really do that this year, which is good. I'm glad that happened because we all got to witness, the offensive rookie of the year just go crazy. And I think he is well deserving of that. I mean, being a rookie and getting to the final is pretty darn good. And I know that's the score of that game, the final score looked like a blowout. It was a lot closer than it was in the final because they had like a pick six and another touchdown to ice the game. Like it was a lot closer until like the end of the third quarter. So Terry McLaurin finally got a quarterback that could throw him the ball, and was awesome. I'm kicking myself because I could have had him for a third-round pick this year.
I almost feel bad knowing that like his whole career was wasted pretty much. I think he was talking about it. I think he was talking about like he was like going in and like he felt real. I think it was after the game that they lost, and he was like, getting emotional. It's like it's crazy, I see him and the rest of the young guys like come in, and I am finally like doing stuff and like have this rapport, and he has this rapport with all the younger guys, and I kind of realized myself that like my time not only on the team but also like in the league is like waning. It's like coming to an end. I'm like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah,
but it's true.
He found his dude. I mean, running back. It's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. And I think Austin Eckler's there for one more year under contract. Then he's gone. Aging running back. It's probably not going to work out very well this year. At tight end, they still have Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott, who I think is going to be a thing. I hope he's going to be a thing. I really do. And then
Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz did it, and then he left. And look at Trey McBride. We get him out of the way, and boom, Trey McBride is top tight end. So it's overall positive. I think they're gonna need to bring in another wide receiver because I think they need an extra guy opposite of Terry McLaurin to really kind of stretch the field and just take some pressure off of him. And I mean, having a dual threat quarterback is just. It's awesome, man. I mean, it opens up the field. Look at the Ravens. I mean, we're talking about a lot of these teams here that made the Super Bowl or the Final Four. They got a lot of rushing quarterbacks, so it opens up a lot in the offense to help with that. So the offensive coordinators can be more creative because of the assets that these guys have. So. Moving on here to the Buffalo Bills, Mr. MVP himself, Josh Allen. Didn't matter. We got rid of Stephon Diggs. We got rid of Gabe Davis. We got rid of everybody. Didn't matter.
Oh, my God.
It was super surprising. He was someone I faded this year because I'm like, you get rid of all his pass catchers. How is he going to have value? He's got to throw to someone, but, like, are these guys it? Josh Allen don't care. He's just like, give me the fantasy points. I'll I'll take you to the promised land. And for a lot of
I'll,
people,
I'll do it
he did.
myself.
Pretty much. But then again, like James Cook had himself a year too. Like in his first year, he only scored like 3 touchdowns. And it was like, all right, he's just not going to score. Yeah, it's just because Josh Allen's just going to take them all. Well, this year, Josh Allen got a couple rushing touchdowns. James Cook had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. Like, it didn't matter. So, this team, I think, is another one where we're just going to run it back. And I think they have a solid defense. I don't think they really need to do too much to overhaul that. You know, they lost Micah Hyde to retirement, so they're going to have to replace him. That'll be a hard person to replace. But outside of that, I don't know what holes this team really has. I mean, Amari Cooper, or the ghost of Amari Cooper that was traded.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Besides just the defense, the hole I see, and I know you disagree with me, is wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think that is a big hole. I mean, you lost Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, who, yes, wasn't great, but still, he was a
Khalil
productive
Shakir,
player.
Keon Coleman is not doing it for me as of right now. Like, will they develop into something? Maybe, but you're in a win now mode, and do you really want to take that shot? Is that really what you want to do? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a free agent wide receiver. I mean, it's funny. Stephon Diggs is a free agent. They can go after him.
Wait,
But
wait.
yeah,
You're
they're not
right.
going to.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun. Devontae Adams might be on the block. He's played up in the snow before. I don't think he would be a bad person to bring in, but I think that'd be kind of difficult. You know, in division, they'd have to work something out. But yeah, I mean,
let's just all agree that it's like crazy to us to think that, like, you know, especially after the whole Xavier Worthy nonsense with the Chiefs that happened, right? It was right there. I mean, we can all agree that Xavier Worthy looks better than Keon Coleman this year, right?
yeah,
Agree
I
on
mean,
that?
yeah, probably. I think I'd agree with
Probably
that.
would have looked better on the Bills than Keon Coleman, in my opinion.
I don't know because
Don't think
I don't think they have different play styles, which I don't think would
they do.
really. I don't think Josh Allen would use Xavier Worthy the way I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense does. But I mean, let's not
I almost
forget
think they
that
should.
he wasn't used like we kind of thought anyway. I mean,
That's true.
Xavier Worthy was a question mark because yes, he was the fastest person in the draft, but
So fast.
he still had some questions.
Should have gone to the Dolphins.
Yeah, but it's. I do think that Xavier Worthy is good, but I don't know. I'd like to see Keon Coleman in another year with Josh Allen. I think they're going to build rapport. You know, having Khalil Shakir is definitely a solid wide receiver a possession wide receiver. You know, he's a go-to guy that you can get. You know, if you need a first down, you throw to him and he's good. You know, he's very reliable. It's just the ancillary pieces. You need a big playmaker, and I don't know if Keon Coleman's there. Definitely not yet. He was someone that I thought he wasn't a polished wide receiver. He needed a little bit of work, and I think last year kind of proved that. So I think another year in this offense is going to do him wonders. So I would be trying to acquire him if I could in Dynasty.
Well, I have him. I'll give him to you for 3 firsts. Oh, you don't have that.
Wait till after the draft. I'll have at least one back. I'll have one back. I'm at 2028 first. So, but final 2 teams here. We're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, and this team. There's a lot of questions I have. You know, who's the head coach? Is Andy Reid going to retire? There's a good possibility that he does. Who's the tight end? Is it Travis Kelce? Is he on the team? Is he going to retire? Is he going to propose? I don't know. Apparently that matters to people. Not me, because I pay attention to football. I don't care about the other stuff. But who's the running back? Is Isaiah Pacheco going to be that dude? Or are they going to draft somebody? Is Juju Smith-Schuster going to be on the team? Like, who's the wide receiver? Is Rashee Rice healthy? Like, there's so many questions on this team. And
we can eliminate the Juju question. We don't need that one.
I know. I just wanted to throw it out there.
That one doesn't matter.
I don't care about Juju Smith-Schuster. But, like, for me, this team's success next season, like, I think they have the potential to be one of these teams that might not make it far in the playoffs. I think they'll still make it because it's the Chiefs and they're a well-run organization. But I feel like they're not going to have the pieces to make it. And I know we've been kind of saying that the past couple of years, and they just keep winning Super Bowls or getting to the Super Bowl. But I think that's going to catch up to them this year because losing Travis Kelce, if he does retire, which we won't know yet for a couple of weeks, or probably months, that's still a big piece. If they lose the head coach, that's an even bigger piece. Rashee Rice is coming off a major knee injury. What health is he going to be in? What form is he going to return to? Is he going to be the same guy, or is he going to do what everybody that typically gets a nasty knee injury does and take a lot of time to get back up to speed? So, and the whole running back situation, I know Isaiah Pacheco got injured this year and probably should not have made it back to the field. And I think that's where a lot of the overreactions are going to be. Like, I know you have Pacheco in our Dynasty League. Now, is he someone you are trying to hold? Are you trying to sell him? Or would you be looking to buy him on the cheap just because of, he was back and he was ceding touches to Kareem Hunt?
Okay, obviously I'm throwing in that league. I don't intend on winning this year, so I'm like actively selling my players. So I want to sell him. I think for a reasonable price, but I'm not going to sell him for a low price. So you should try and buy him for a low price in your other leagues. But I'm not going to do that. Okay, I value Pacheco as a reasonable, actual starting running back. I agree with you. I think the worries are over exaggeration for him getting. I think they added him back into the game just for the kind of like the fear factor of it to add another depth to this offense because I think that's what they needed. And never kind of showed form in the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Pacheco if I'm being honest with you.
Someone comes up to you and says, "I got a second round pick." Not enough to pull the trigger? No, you want a first? I don't think you're getting a first.
I'm not gonna get a first, but I do a low first probably for Pacheco. That's basically a second, but yeah, I'm not gonna.
I don't know if that gets done.
I'm definitely not gonna get that, but that would be like if I'm like in the in this league, maybe because like I said, I'm not trying to win, but in any other league where I have him, that's not flying. That's the confidence that I have in Pacheco because I'm not too worried at all. Like I was saying,
if you have him and you want a first, you're not getting him. Because
we'll see.
I'm looking at Keep Trade Cut right now, 206, a mid second. 207 in that area.
Wow.
Mark Andrews, yeah, he's falling, and a lot of that is going to be course. Yeah, I mean it's recency bias. He was in the Super Bowl, he had like 7 total yards. Like they just
he's the type of player that I'm actually like. There are definitely plenty of players like this. So, for instance, Isaiah Pacheco, Cooper Kupp, maybe even T. Higgins. There is value definitely selling them off now. There's also a lot of value in gambling, holding on to them, waiting till the season starts, middle of the season. They do well, you sell them then. You sell them to the teams that want to win it all, or maybe they think they're one piece away from winning it all. You can easily sell to them for more than they're actually worth, and get the best bang for your buck. Because if you're giving it to a contender, you know that those picks are probably not going to be the greatest anyway in terms of like where they're going to end up. So you use that to your advantage as well, to get as much as humanly possible. That's what I did this past year.
Yeah, you dirty dog.
It worked out pretty well.
Kelce. Yeah. Whoopsies.
Yeah, you took that. I traded Jalen Hurts away. I know that's crazy, right? But I think that's what's going to
Yeah.
work out really well for me. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean, Pacheco is a good case study. I feel like after this season, because I mean his draft capital was non-existent. He was a seventh round pick a couple years
yeah,
ago. Went to the Chiefs. Chiefs are a really good offense, a lot of scoring opportunities, and he took advantage of it. This year they again go to the Super Bowl, but they have issues, and he gets injured, and his value took a basically a nosedive, and we're still seeing the effects of that right now. With recency bias of what has he done, and these are guys that you either have a diamond, or it's one of those geodes that has a little speck of stuff in it. And you're like, oh, it's either a really cool diamond in there, or it's just that little speck, and it was like a piece of glitter that I dropped on it. So you don't know until you can find out. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Chiefs do in this offseason. But now let's get to the Super Bowl victors, the Philadelphia Eagles.
boo.
Yeah, what? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm glad. I'm one of the Giants fans that I didn't take it personally that Saquon left for the Eagles. I probably should have, but we also really screwed him, man. Like,
No, we deserve it. We deserve everything that happened to us. So I agree with you.
yeah, we put that in motion.
Yeah,
Joe Shane
we
was
did.
like,
That's us.
I don't want to pay a running back because I don't want to pay a running back just to do this blah 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 blah. And then I'm glad it happened. I always enjoy when other people get humbled. This time was our turn to get humbled, and whoopsies. Saquon
Oops.
Barkley's pretty good. I wish we had a player like him on our team. Oh wait, we did. Huh. So for me, there's really nothing. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, maybe get upgrade at tight end because Dallas Goedert can't stay healthy, but he's still involved in the offense. Saquon Barkley is him. So Jalen Hurts, pretty good at football, I would say. I think he's a pretty solid quarterback. And tush push, we thought was going to go away. It wasn't going to be the same without Jason Kelsey, and it was exactly the same. Maybe with one that didn't work more than last year. But yeah, it really sucks to praise the Eagles, but man,
Yeah.
they're a very
Football
well
team.
run franchise right now, and Howie
Good football
Roseman
team.
just keeps making everyone look stupid. So stop that, please.
Yeah.
We do it to ourselves, but he makes everyone else look dumb. Like how did he get the defense that he got? It was insane. It was everybody. Who's anybody? It's like, oh yeah, I'll take him. Don't worry. Oh yeah, everyone's passing on this guy. Okay, here, come to the Eagles, and they won
Not
the
ideal
Super
at
Bowl
all.
on the back of their defense. So
Yeah.
now I'm sad.
That's okay.
Just,
We
just
can
praise
stop
the
talking
Eagles.
about it.
Like I
We
feel
can
like I
stop
gotta
talking
wash.
about it. It's okay.
I feel like I gotta wash my mouth out with soap. We're just talking good
I
about the
don't
Eagles.
have.
Being a Giants fan.
I agree. I don't have really anything to add. I think they're a good team. They know what they need to work on. I think like they have a singular lineman leaving their team. I think Zach Bond's lineman, right? Yeah, he is. Pretty sure. Am
Yeah,
I
I
wrong?
think so.
So he's leaving. So replacing that or re-signing him, whatever the case may be. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's about it. There's
yeah.
nothing really else to kind of comment on.
The Eagles are gonna be good for the next couple of years. That's
Anyway, now we're
reality.
talking about now that we're done talking about the most depressing thing known to me. Actually, it's not true. That's not true. Second most depressing. The first would be if the Dallas Cowboys were in the situation.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
hate
that's
for
true.
them
We
is
we we
much
can
deeper than.
not like the Cowboys. But if you heard Dak Prescott, they're right there, with the Eagles, right there. Okay, I want what he's smoking. But yeah, that wraps up all of the teams for this offseason. You can find the links of the previous shows in the description below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. We're going to have more episodes coming out, gearing more into rookie talk coming up. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot of, I'm sure we're going to have differing opinions on the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs. Tight ends, I feel like we're all going to figure the same. It's tight end, don't matter. It's not, I don't think this class has a Brock Bowers type player, but we're going to get into all the free agents and everything. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here through all of it. So without further ado, gents, I guess let's head out of here, right?
Yeah,
All right. So long, everybody.